Are you satisfied with your understanding of sustainability? If you are not, imagine a journey together, a pluralistic one, with academia, innovators, startups, NGOs, all looking for solutions to the greatest challenge of our time. My name is Samuele Tini, and this is the Sustainability Journey. Welcome to another episode. Today we are going to meet a young leader. So the future is for the young. So we have somebody who has been at the forefront of sustainability for many years. A sustainability expert. She has collaborated with the European Commission. She has been, woman leader. She won many prizes, and she's an engineer. And then she's a policymaker, a sustainability expert. So I'm very pleased to meet today Giulia Marzetti. Giulia, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Hi, Samuele. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Giulia, it's also good to have a fellow Italian that we have not had many on the podcast. It's also good to see young people at the forefront of the moon of sustainability. And you have done so much, your achievement, your accolade. You have even a Wikipedia page. But before that, I want to ask for our audience, our question. Who is Giulia? What is your sustainability journey?
That is probably one of the most difficult questions that they ever asked me. For me, I think I kind of really dissociate myself from sustainability. I think ever since I was young, I've always been intrinsically linked to the environment and sustainability. I think my upbringing was all about caring for others and caring for the environment as well. I usually define myself as an engineer and as policymaker and consultant, but definitely at the bottom of these pyramids, if you want to call it that way, there's always been a strong sense of caring for the environment. And when I talk about the environment, it's not only nature, but it's also ourselves, humans, who are part of nature, if that makes sense.
It's really interesting, Giulia. I see a lot of similarity with other journeys of people that they have this strong sense of purpose that is deeply in them. And you're really trying to show and work towards a more sustainable world with your different streams of work. So before going and seeing maybe what you have been doing with the consultancy, what you've been doing at the European Commission, we want to ask you, which are the most pressing sustainability issues that you think they are really crucial, especially in the next decade? And especially for you that you are what they call the Gen Z, and in Kenya we have also had a lot of discussion about this. What do you expect?
That is really $1 million question. I think in the next decade, we need to transition to new energy sources. We've seen it recently, like The Economist published a whole report on solar becoming the 80%, even more, the energy source of choice in the next 10 years by 2040. So it's a bit longer. The second one, which I think we don't discuss enough about, is having regenerative systems. When I think about regenerative system, I'm talking about food, I'm talking about our consumption systems. I think that so far we're really focused on the energy transition, which of course makes sense because in our growing population, our growing world, we do consume a lot of energy. We've been focusing a lot on transport, which is the flip side of energy. I think specifically as we transition towards electrification of transport, and it is fine, but what we don't discuss about, and we really need to address it within the next decade if we want to reach net zero, and more if we even want to continue living on this planet, is really sustainable consumption and sustainable food production. So far, I feel that there haven't really been a lot of innovation in the space. And also we need a lot of behavioral changes. And that's probably why we don't discuss about changing our food system, our production system. It's just because it's going to require both a top-down and a bottom-up approach on how we consume, how we produce, and it's going to also require some changes.
And it's really important, and it's really the many systems that we need to do is holistically. I really like the concept of regeneration. This is where we need to go from the extractive model that has been business as usual for the past maybe 200 years. And discussing about transport, energy, and you have worked with the European Commission. So can you explain a bit how you are promoting and trying to promote this transition towards a more sustainable planet, especially working at those high levels?
Yeah, actually, it's quite nice to discuss about this since we have a new commission. So it have been election in June 24. And now, as of September, we have effectively a new commission with a new agenda in place. So it's quite interesting to discuss this, although many things are still to be decided for the next 5 years up until 2029. In 2018, the European Commission published their Green Deal, which is flagship policy on how to achieve carbon neutrality for Europe as a continent by 2050. And from there was the Fit for 55 policy package, which underpin a whole policy package of legislations throughout all aspects of the economy, really. And obviously, energy and transport were two of the big ticket items. Within that, one major aspect was, as you correctly mentioned, Samuel, was energy. And specifically, it has been the Repower Europe plan that increased the energy targets from renewable energy in Europe up until almost 60%. And these were also scaled to retrofitting our buildings and energy using buildings, which is something that all Europe could be better at, really. So having better insulated buildings and so on. So of course, from these policy packages, then there have been some actions and funding going into major funding programs. So for example, Horizon Europe, the Innovation Fund, also the new European Bauhaus, specifically for buildings where countries and different consortia can get funding to promote and work on projects that actually work on these policy packages, helping achieve Europe's sustainability goals.
Very interesting, Giulia. And as a consultant, as somebody that has worked with many businesses and many people, we want to ask you, which are the most impactful experiences that you had and you can really feel proud of?
Interesting question. The projects that I've enjoyed the most were the projects where I was actually in the country and I could be helping decarbonize maybe a city or decarbonize maybe a project. So I'll give an example. When I was really young in my engineering career, I got to go to Australia, Melbourne, where I was contributing to the design of the Melbourne Metro. It was quite not only a major infrastructure project, but also it was super interesting in the sense that I got to define the sustainability requirements that the project was going to have. Similarly, one of the most recent projects I've worked on was to decarbonize a city in the UK. And it was extremely interesting to work with all sorts of policymakers and colleagues in helping making that transition. So
fantastic projects, and you have achieved a wonderful something that you're really be proud of. Australia, UK, really an international career, and especially on this, you have been recognized in many networks as one young woman in science and engineering. Which is the role, especially I want to ask you, because we had in the past interviewed few women in STEM, which is the role of women in STEM, which sometimes is a discipline that is changing, but still mainly predominantly male dominated?
Excellent question to ask. And obviously, part of my work has also been promoting the role of women in science and engineering, both from promoting science to young girls, so going to schools and talk about it, up until creating networks of students, university students, and then colleagues in the workplace. I do think that we still don't talk about the need of having more women in science and engineering. And what we see, and what I've seen actually in my career as well, is that in some countries, for example, Italy is doing quite well actually, there is almost gender parity in women and men studying STEM subjects. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics, right? Some pure science, we do see in some countries that we are reaching gender parity. But then what happens is that as we enter the workforce, there are less and less women entering the workforce within engineering science jobs, and then managing to stay in engineering science roles. I've seen this a lot, and specifically in my career in English-speaking countries. The UK has, I think, one of the lowest rates of women in engineering in the workforce. I think it's still maybe 13%. Definitely less than 20%. And there are a variety of reasons why this happens. It's even called the leaky STEM pipeline, meaning that we have at the beginning of the STEM pipeline, so when women enter university, etc., and they graduate from university, we have quite a good gender ratio. But then as they progress towards the career and then they reach senior position, then it's really almost impossible to find women. And as mentioned, it happens for a variety of reasons. One is the lack of mentorship and also the lack of relatable role models. And also the fact that when you enter your career and then like you keep progressing, you see that at some point, and that has happened to me, like you're really the only woman on the maybe on the shop floor, like the only woman in the room, specifically in some sectors, for example, buildings or even manufacturing, right? And this is a vicious circle for which I give an example. One of my previous roles at the European Commission, I was meant to select a board of experts from the manufacturing industry. And I pointed out that there was barely any gender balance. There was no gender balance. We had really few nominations from female experts in manufacturing. And the answer I got was that, well, we'd love to have more women, but we don't have women in senior position that we can nominate. And then, like you see, this is a catch-22, right? If we don't give women those opportunities to become senior, then they'll never have the opportunity to get more opportunities, like be on a board that could unlock any other opportunities, right? So again, I think this is one of those issues where we need both bottom-up and top-down approach. And also having an inclusive workplace, it means a lot. It means having Ali, like yourself, Samuele, someone who's quite open-minded and someone who's quite vocal into promoting women and like put women at the front of what they're doing. It also means having generally a workplace that is free of bullying, that is free of maybe microaggressions, that is free from any comments that may feel women, or and if you think about women who will want to start a family, etc., they would make them feel like they shouldn't belong there.
And it's really important, and we have discussed, and you have touched such important points. Something that, as you said, is slowly changing. We need to do more, and we hope also giving voice to people like you and others have you done in the past will help also more people and to step up and really change also this part. And I want to ask, going a bit deeper in that, because women is one part, but you're also doing a lot of also advocacy and work, and you have been recognized as a top voice, a young and emerging leaders. You have got accolades and prize. You have mentioned before behavioral change as an important part. As let's use a word maybe not very appropriate, but as a leader, maybe somebody who can influence young people and somebody who can talk their language. So can you tell us how we can better engage to educate the public on the importance of sustainability, and what we do also, not only to educate, but even to do the next step to foster change?
This is such a good question. And I think, again, as yourself, someone you're a change maker as well, right? That's something that is always at the back of my mind. And I think for me has been maybe just keep the conversation going, and especially try and be interested in the other people's viewpoint, and don't be scared of confrontation, as well as explain everything. Because sometimes I feel that ourselves who work in sustainability and climate change, maybe we're just so used to talk to people who are in the same bubble as us, and like they know the basis. They know the basis of the science, they know basic sustainability concept, right? So like we sort of give it for granted. Whereas like to make impactful change and make sure that we have more people coming on board with that, we need to make sure that we explain all these concepts clearly. And again, I'll give you an example, right? I do work quite a bit in the intersection of sustainability and climate change and gender equality. And gender equality and climate change are intrinsically linked, simply because women are already disadvantaged in our economy, in our systems, economic systems. If you think about it, women earn less than men. The majority of people living on the poverty line are women, and this is across the boards. Like it's in the global south, it's in the global north. If you think about America, if you think about Italy, right? And already that is enough for women to be extremely disadvantaged due to climate change. If we think about extreme weather events, whether it's a heat wave or whether it's a flood, women are much more likely to live in flood-prone areas, because housing in flood-prone areas are cheaper. So like who's going to be living in those housing? There are people who can afford them, and they're like most likely they're going to be women, right? And similarly with heat waves, we do talk quite a bit about heat poverty. So people can afford to put up heating systems during winter, but also we should talk about cooling poverty. People can afford to have air conditioning in summer, and especially in areas and where temperatures are reaching 40 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Celsius, right? And this women most likely are not going to be able to afford air conditioning. So I do work quite a bit into this space. And it's quite interesting how, even people would work in sustainability and climate change, maybe they wouldn't understand immediately the intersection with gender equality, right? Just to give you an example, that is always worth it to explain yourself thoroughly, back it up with data.
No, it's really important what you said. And you see, as we always say, sustainability is not monodimensional, but it's multidimensional. And it's really an important part to understand, as you see, as a consultant, the different area, the system, let's say, thinking that you have to when you want to unlock change. And on that, you're an expert, you are consulting with businesses, companies. So we want to ask, how do you see the sustainability panorama evolving in the next decade? So we know that 2030, 2050, those are the milestones, but how do you see our path?
Yeah, that's an extremely interesting question. I do think that nowadays sustainability has been gaining a lot of spotlight within businesses and within media. So I do see this trend continuing as well. And also, I do see new trends coming up. Now, there has been a wave of legislations, both from the EU and then also in financial legislations from the US, etc. So I do see that trend continuing, as well as more thorough implementations of legislations, as well as different policy pieces. So there's going to be a lot of scrutiny going forward. And I think we have seen it in the past 2 years, and I do see this trend continuing. So a lot of scrutiny on your non-financial reporting, on your corporate sustainability disclosure directive, etc. reporting. I do see that coming to the point where I see a lot more people getting into the sustainability field. Maybe a lot more people come from different backgrounds. So more legal professional, more financial professionals also getting into the sustainability field.
Fantastic. Giulia, on this panorama and this journey, you have been recognized by many people, from Forbes to McKinsey and more recently to the Financial Times. So I want to ask to Giulia, what are the future initiatives, especially maybe relating to the next years, and projects that you are preparing and you are working towards?
Yeah, I do have my own podcast, and so I'll be continuing on that. Similarly to you, Somalia, I think I find it extremely valuable to continue these conversations. And as well, because sustainability is such a broad subject, and as you said, it's multidimensional. It's also quite important to have this conversation with people who don't come from the same background as us. I particularly enjoy learning about oceans and then the food environments, because that's something that I haven't really touched upon in my career. My career has been quite infrastructure based, energy transport, circular economy, etc., and consumption systems. So I do enjoy getting to know it, and also supporting creators and other sustainability professions on their own path. Other than that, I'm also involved in different boards and different sustainability associations. So I'll continue with that for sure. I've been attending the United Nations Conference of Parties for the past few years, both representing youth voices as well as experts in my field. So I'll be continuing with that, and then we'll see what the future unlocks, really.
And it's really already a lot of a great achievement. And so we are going towards the ends. We would like to ask even more, but one question we want to ask. So you have, I say, achieved a lot. So which advice, Giulia, that you are already a changemaker, a recognized expert in the field of sustainability, would you give to somebody, maybe especially women, as we discussed before, that wants to pursue a career in sustainability and make a positive impact for our planet?
I love this question because it gives me the opportunity to leave a positive message to the listener of your podcast. My first answer would be to prepare. Don't underestimate the effort that it takes to actually study something relevant in the field. I'm saying this because I do interview for junior position in my team, etc. So I also come with that perspective of someone who may hire someone else. So do prepare and do your research. And also don't be afraid to start out. I think the beauty of today's education system is that we do have the chance to do some part-time internships or part-time projects. So it'll be a good time to explore and see what you like within sustainability, etc. and take that forward.
Fantastic advice, Giulia. So I want really to thank you for being a guest on the pod, for come to share your wisdom, to share your ideas. It has been a pleasure and honor having you.
Thank you, Samuele, for having me. It has been an honor.
Are you satisfied after this wonderful episode? Let's continue together our sustainability journey.